Sue? So about another 5 minutes? Okay. We cannot complete this discussion without talking for 5 minutes about the role that organisations play in the construction of emotion. Because as social workers, we are committed, are we not, to a contextual understanding of phenomena. We cannot have a discussion about emotion that is purely located within the intrapersonal zone. If you are interested in this domain, follow any of the work by Russ Vince. This is one quote. And I've just finished a Masters on Leadership, and his work on emotion, power, learning in organisations is at a level beyond any of the other organisational analysis. He says this: every organisation is an emotional place because it is a human invention serving human purposes and dependent on human beings to function. Now look at the duality of this sentence. It's in two halves. Emotion is what creates and sustains an organisational system in its current form. It's not the structures, it's not the grades, it's not the pay packets. It's saying something else is the glue. Individuals and groups in organisations continually organise themselves both on the basis of their emotional responses to the organisation and simultaneously by avoiding emotion. In other words, he's saying that organisations, that the processes of organisational life are simultaneously organised by and organised by emotion, which is simultaneously denied. Emotion is all the more coercive when it is denied. It has much more power as glue when we deny that it exists as glue. This is a very powerful insight. And we cannot have a conversation about emotion without having a conversation about power. Go back to what I said earlier. If we think of organisations as systems for handling competing needs and desires, then organisations are systems for managing emotional and political processes. And because emotions are central to what maintains a system, then emotions are not only personal, they are political and they're about power. And we should not forget that in the business we're in. I'll finish on this, Donnie, and then we can take some questions. I'm going to skip some of the stuff because I think this is a good pause point. In all of the emotional intelligence literature, one of the beaming holistic lights is this work by Antidote. And Antidote is an umbrella organisation based in London, really under the umbrella of a number of leading thinkers, psychotherapists, people like Dr. Susie Orbach, you might have come across her, which is really, Antidote was formed as a kickback, as a way of standing up against the tyranny of targets and outcomes. The research was based on turning around a number of troubled schools, particularly in the East End of London, and it was some qualitative research about what it was these head teachers were doing. They didn't particularly do it under the banner of I'm being an emotionally literate head teacher. But the conclusion is powerful. And Antidote say that we might think about an emotionally literate organisation is where there is the practice of thinking individually and collectively about how emotions shape our actions and using emotional understanding to enrich our thinking. This is a wonderful sentence. Emotional literacy involves using whatever relationships are available to help transform feelings that incapacitate to feelings that empower. You see, too often our experience is that emotions transform relationships that were there to help to relationships that disempower. We've got it all the wrong way around. So we need to think about emotional literacy as a collective, not just individual, as a relationship, not just intrapersonal process, that it's about opening connections between thinking and feeling. And it's about creating conversations at all levels of our systems that enable reflection. And it's about shaping a compelling and collective narrative. And why should we finish on narrative? Because actually we live by the stories we tell about ourselves. And emotions are central to the construction, maintenance, refiguring of our narratives when they're in trouble, when they face trauma. It is the reconstruction and the continuing and coherent narrative that will see us through. And we cannot create, maintain, or refigure our narratives to see us through if we do not deal in the currency of emotion. So let's stop there, and happy to take questions.
A few people have taken the opportunity to grab themselves another drink of water, or there are still some glasses of wine up there. But Tony's ready to take questions now, and Sally's got the mic, so if you've got a question, sing out.
This is what you said about clients taking responsibility for others' mood, and I've got a child protection. I've got just this opposite thing happening, particularly with parents, of I'm responsible for the way they feel. And they're quite happy to tell me that a lot of the time. I'm depressed because of you, I'm angry because of you, and sometimes I do something good, oh thanks for that, I feel much better now, but I thought it was a bit opposite to what I was thinking.
What the issue is, to elaborate, I mean, I'm absolutely with you. The issue is how a vulnerable person copes with being in a position where it looks like they have to look after the other person's emotion. There are, I mean, if we were talking attachment, we might think of...
Children would act more like that, they're responsible for...
Yes, and they may become parentified children. They may be those children who then look after. But I think that for adults, there are a range, because they are more mobile and more articulate, for a range of different strategies they use when they feel they're being invited to have to look after us as a worker. They may solve that problem by saying, no, you'll look after me, it's my emotions that are going to be important here. Because they have a history that says, here we go again, I'm having to look after this person who is supposed to be helping me. My solution might be to that problem, I'm not going to do that, that makes me angry. You are going to look after me, and the way I'm going to make that happen is I'm going to rattle your cage by being so loud about my emotions that you will have to pay attention to me. Where did those people learn that strategy? We guess when they were 5, because the only way they could get attention from parents who are unavailable is to exaggerate emotion, which gives us our preoccupied attachment response. So I think children are much more vulnerable because they have much less cognitive protection against being placed in that situation, and they follow the rules as given. By the time people are adults, they have seen more models and have more choices about how they're going to handle that situation. But you know, your observation is really helpful. I suppose it's about thinking about the difference between what is the function of the behaviour and what is the behaviour. The difference between what's on top and what's underneath. So what's driving the behaviour might be very different to how it comes out.
And you've got quite a good reason to be angry at something, they're just blaming her, but actually I can see why you're angry, you know. Just going to something.
But they've also grown up in environments where the rules about taking responsibility are very screwed. So all the models they've often had very impoverished models about what it looks like for an adult to say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Very few of them have been given that toolkit. The models like go drinking, or it's your fault, or how dare you. So you know, why would they have got the skills to know what to do in that situation? Because they were often not given any of the tools. And furthermore, their self-esteem is bound around avoiding being responsible, because once you're responsible in the family, you're responsible for everything.